Program manager for the Kings River Water Quality Coalition, has spent most of these last 30 years working in agriculture in one capacity or another. For the last 14 years, he has provided growers with information on efficient water pump operation, improved irrigation system performance, and the regulatory compliance of the surface and groundwater irrigated lands order. Eric has a BA in geography and a master's in plant science from Fresno State. In his role as program manager, he is responsible for implementing the requirements of the regulation. Eric will be providing an overview of the growers' reporting forms to the coalition as required by the Water Board. Eric?
Thank you, Mark, and good morning, everybody. All right, I get the pleasant task of informing you of the requirements imposed upon you by the Regional Board for reporting. There are three major reports that are included within the order. The Sediment and Erosion Control Plan, which may or may not apply to you. There are the farm evaluation reports, which will apply to every member, as well as the nitrogen management plan. These were developed in an effort to enhance the data collection efforts that Dave referred to earlier, and hopefully we can synthesize this data down to something that allows us to focus only on those areas that have an issue. The first step of the Sediment and Erosion Control Plan was to develop an assessment report along these lines. That is something the coalition has prepared and submitted to the Regional Board on the November 20 deadline, at the same time as we turned in the groundwater assessment report and a couple of other requirements. We took the State Board database for soil conditions that they created for construction permits, evaluated soil types and slopes in order to create risk categories for sediment discharge to surface water. This is an analysis that is similar to that taken in other coalition areas. The entire Tulare Lake Basin is pretty much following the model that Kings has created for this topic. The plan is pending at the Regional Water Quality Control Board, and the timeline for implementation of the requirements is tied to the approval dates. This is a map of the eastern portion of the Kings River Water Quality Coalition at the boundary of the irrigated lands with the Sierra Nevada watershed. The various colors represent the risk categories developed through the analysis of the State Board database. At the top of the map, along the black line there, is the San Joaquin River. The Kings River passes through the center and down toward the southern end. Any area that is not shaded is listed as having a risk of 0 to 5 tons of annual soil loss. The blue areas are 5 to 10 tons. The green is 10 to 15. The yellow areas are 15 to 20, and anything greater than 20 is marked in red. Once we developed these risk categories and laid them onto a map, we then took the major surface water bodies that run through the region and drew a 500 meter or 1,600 foot line around each one. After we completed that task, we overlaid the member parcels from our last enrollment list, and any parcels that intersected the 500 meter buffer line around the surface water bodies and were contained within a zone greater than 5 tons per acre of annual soil loss is shown on this map. The final analysis said that maybe about 300 parcels out of the entire coalition membership is subject to this regulation based on our results. The black lines are those parcels that will require a sediment and erosion control plan. The magenta ones, which you barely make out on some of these perimeter areas, probably doesn't have a pointer. Those are parcels that we recommend prepare a plan, either because there is no irrigated agriculture that was visible in an aerial photograph, or there is a parcel between that parcel and the surface water body. It could also be that there's just minimal contact with the buffer line. The sediment and erosion control plan will be a common template for the entire central part of the state, and will be made available once the sediment and erosion control plan has been approved. Once the plan is approved, the coalition will notify those landowners. As shown in the previous map, we know where they're located. We can backtrack through our database to do a direct mailing only to those impacted. The growers that need to prepare a plan and implement the practices. Again, there'll be an approved template for this. It will require expert certification. You are going to need, a professional engineer or a professional geologist to sign off on the plan. The plan is kept on farm, it is not returned to the coalition, and the grower will need to demonstrate the practices are being implemented should a regional board inspection occur. These are the due dates for the sediment and erosion control plan. All farms identified within the assessment report, if you are larger than 60 acres irrigated, and that's combined for all of your properties, you will have 180 days from the date of the assessment report approval, and you will need to renew that plan annually. Any farm less than 60 acres, totally irrigated, you will have 1 year from the approval date of the assessment report. Farm evaluation plans. This is a generalized survey of practices used on your farm. We have designed the template so that you can combine as many parcels as you see fit, as long as they are similarly managed and they are the same crop. So if you have 5 parcels, all of them are farmed exactly the same way, you prepare one report. If you have 3 different crops on those 5 parcels, you will prepare 3 reports. If you have to manage a single crop in 2 different manners, you have one portion of your property is drip irrigated, one portion is flood, you'll have to prepare 2 reports because of the change in management practice. Copies of these reports will be sent to the coalition for tabulation and reporting at the township level of detail. That's 36 square miles. This effectively means that your individual data will not show up in the reports. It will be tabulated by crop and by practice for each township within the coalition. Because of the delays in the approval of the various coalition groups for the Tulare Lake Basin, we managed to negotiate a change in the deadlines that were originally in the order to reflect these approval dates so that everybody is now working on the same timeline. So for the farm evaluation plans, you are now looking at a first report due date of March 1 of next year. High vulnerability areas, the plans will be updated annually. In low vulnerability areas, the plan will be updated every 5 years. Once the GAR has been approved, those members that are located within high vulnerability areas will be notified, as well as those who are classified as low vulnerability, and will have to, so that your requirements will be clear. The exception is in low vulnerability areas, small farm, less than 60 acres, you'll have until March 1 of 2018, and with a 5-year update cycle. There are provisions in the order that if the practices do not change over a long period of time, we can get the annual update moved to once every 5 years. But that's going to take some time to prove that the practices are static. The report that is due in 2016 will be for practices that are in use this year. Go through a few of the pages in the farm evaluation template. The template is available at the Kings River Water Quality Coalition website. We will also be mailing these out along with the nutrient management plan, which I'll discuss in a minute or two. The first page is a general survey of practices in use. So you put your name, your coalition member ID number, and then check off as many boxes that apply, sign and date at the bottom. Part B is a questionnaire regarding your wells. If the well is active, what sort of protection that you have. If you've got an abandoned well, what sort of protections do you have? If you've got an abandoned well that you plan on activating, do you protect it from water getting back into the casing and down into the groundwater table? Or do you have plans to have a well driller, when they have the time, to come out and do an abandonment per California Water Code? Part C is field-specific information. This is where you would combine as many of the fields that are similarly managed together. You list the crop, field ID if it applies. If you have a single parcel with 3 different field names, then that's the field ID comes into play. Otherwise, it's just the parcel number and the irrigated acreage. Everything is tied to irrigated acreage, not the assessed acreage that you would get from the county. Again, you're asked about irrigation practices that apply to these fields. Any efficiency practices and any nitrogen management practices that are in play. And you would need to complete one of these for each change in cropping or management practice. Part D is a hand-drawn or some other form of farm map so that a regulator making a field inspection would be able to see where your properties lie in a quick and easy manner. Not all of these pages come back to the coalition. We would need to see Part A, Part B, and Part C. We do not need Part D. Each of these templates will come with a complete set of instructions so that you will know what needs to come back to us and when. Part E is sediment and erosion control practices already in place. If you are on flat land, you probably are not employing any practices, in which case, that's fine. And you're generally not going to be at risk for surface erosion. If you're at any kind of a moderate risk or anything, just kind of indicate what you already do to keep the soil on your land. Farm evaluation due dates. This table reflects all the changes that were adopted in December by the Regional Water Quality Control Board. So in high vulnerability areas, all farm sizes, the due date again is March 1 of 2016 with an annual renewal. Low vulnerability areas, large farm, also due March 1 with a 5-year update cycle, and small farms have until March of 2018 with a 5-year renewal cycle. Nitrogen management plans. Dan Monk from the University of California will go into these in more detail, but I will just provide a quick overview. This is a worksheet to calculate nitrogen loading for every member regardless of vulnerability. Summary reports are required for those in high vulnerability areas. This is data that comes back to the coalition, again tabulated at the township level for reporting to the Regional Water Quality Control Board. Individual member information will not be submitted. The idea here is that we want to know if you are considering every nitrogen source that goes onto your field. What is the nitrate concentration of the well water that you're applying, or surface water? How much fertilizer do you plan to apply, and how much did you actually apply? Those sorts of data points will be collected under this plan. These are the due dates for the nitrogen management plan. High vulnerability areas, large farm, will have March 23rd of this year to have at least the projection of what you think you're going to do for this year completed in the reports and ready for regional board inspection should they pay you a visit. Small farms, again, less than 60 irrigated acres total for your operation. This form is not due to be completed until March 1 of 2017. And those areas designated as low vulnerability, regardless of farm size, again, will need to have one completed by March 1 of 2017. These are created annually. Requirements on our end for completion of the summary data. We will have the data tabulated for the high vulnerability areas, large farm, March 1 of 2017, small farm for March of 2018, and we are not going to be tabulating the data in low vulnerability areas. These are provisions in the order. The focus of the order is to deal with those areas within our coalition that are pose a higher risk to groundwater. So the nitrogen management plans are aimed at those areas once defined in the GAR.